Getting water to your tap is more complex than you might think. Over the next 5 minutes, we will outline the values of drinking water, the upstream and downstream supply chain tiers of the City of Ottawa, and some of the challenges of this system, including forecasting, assumed risk, and disintermediation. How do we determine the value of water? Consider what we use it for. The majority of water consumption is in food production, and yet, the average Ottawa household consumes 250 litres of water per day. Of this water, 2/3 are used for personal hygiene and laundry. 1/4 is used for preparing and cooking food, and the remaining less than 10% is used for drinking. The value of water comes from its delivery to farms, homes, and businesses, and in water's clean taste and safety for all of these uses.
These 3 types of value are delivered to Ottawa through the city's supply chain of over 40 first-tier suppliers. Delivery means there's sufficient pressure available when and where it's needed. Safety means the water is free of bacteria, viruses, and other waterborne illnesses. Clean taste means the water is free of particles, grit, and unwanted flavors. The primary raw material, water, comes from the Ottawa River with a permit from the Ontario Ministry of the Environment. The water then goes through a multiple barrier treatment process. Through a series of filters, screens, and settling tanks, the city removes floating garbage or weeds, sand, grit, and any other type of particle, and then sanitizes the water using chemicals to make it safe for drinking. The water is then tested to ensure that no harmful bacteria or viruses are in the drinking water supply. The City of Ottawa tests for 75 different types of contaminants, the most of any city in Canada. Finally, the water is distributed to homes and businesses throughout the city. This network is owned and operated directly by the city and includes pumping stations, elevated reservoirs, and buried pipes. The necessary goods and services for all 3 types of value are sourced by the city from their suppliers. Each of these first-tier suppliers has its own network of suppliers. To illustrate the complexity of the system, let's take a look at one of the 2,500 different supplies the city needs.
One of the ways the city delivers safety is to use PAL and ViroCheck capsules to test water for parasites in their laboratory. To source this equipment, the single employee responsible for procurement places an order from VWR, a global distributor of laboratory equipment with over 550 different suppliers. One of these suppliers is PAL, a global manufacturer and supplier of filtration, purification, and testing equipment. PAL manufactures EnviroCheck capsules in-house. From the perspective of the focal firm, there are at least 4 upstream tiers to procure one small capsule that is used to test 2 types of contaminants. Now take a step back and imagine the complexity of the supply chain for the 2,500 different products that all supply value to the consumer. As you can see, to deliver clean-tasting, safe-to-drink water requires hundreds of different business relationships. One of the challenges of this complexity is ensuring all of the required materials are available when needed.
The same is true for Ottawa supplying to its citizens. Forecasting plays a critical role in this. For example, water use annually is heaviest in the summer as citizens water their grass and fill their pools. On a daily basis, water is used most in the morning and evening, when people are at home. From a collaborative perspective, the city does not share this forecasting information with their upstream suppliers, and this pattern continues up the supply chain. Each organization is able to forecast the required materials sufficiently to ensure timely delivery of goods and services to the city.
Now looking downstream, most municipalities in Ontario rely on the Ontario Clean Water Agency for water distribution to their customers. Instead, Ottawa has disintermediated this logistics role. This means that the city has internalized a part of the supply chain which might otherwise be supplied by a downstream tier. This is a complex process to absorb internally, with many additional competencies required to take on this role, including planning, design, sourcing, construction, and maintenance of the distribution system. There are also risks associated with taking on these roles. To illustrate, consider the events in Walkerton in 2000, when a failure of the distribution system allowed E. coli into the water supply. This posed significant risk to the people of Walkerton.
To conclude, citizens of Ottawa expect that water is clean tasting, safe to drink, and delivered when and where they need it. The city has a large number of suppliers who provide over 2,500 different supplies that directly support these 3 dimensions of value. This massive network of businesses is what supports our ability to do this.